If you're working with the Department of Defense, you've definitely been hearing the buzz about CMMC. That's the Cybersecurity Maturity Model Certification. Well, today we're going to cut right through all the noise. We'll give you a super clear, actionable roadmap to get compliant and, most importantly, lock in those critical contracts.
All right, let's get real for a second. The clock is officially ticking. If your business wants to win, or even just keep its contracts with the DoD, 2026 isn't some far-off date on a calendar. It's the deadline. So the biggest question on the table is aimed squarely at you. Are you actually ready for what's coming? Okay, so let's dive into the mandate itself. I mean, to really get how to prepare, you've got to understand the why behind it all. For years, a lot of these cybersecurity practices were, well, they were basically just suggestions, kind of like a nice to have. But with CMMC, that's all over. This is now a 100% non-negotiable, must-have requirement to do business, period.
And you know, what's so telling about this timeline is that it shows this whole thing didn't just pop up overnight. This was a very deliberate journey. You can see it started back in 2021 when they streamlined the model, then they aligned it with the well-known NIST standards. This year, the final rule was published, and it all leads right here. 2025, it's mandatory in new contracts, and then in 2026, boom, active enforcement begins. The message couldn't be clearer. The time to get moving was yesterday.
So how in the world do you tackle this? I know it can feel like a mountain, but here's the good news. What seems like this huge, complex thing can actually be broken down into a totally manageable plan. So let's walk through the exact 10-step blueprint you need to get CMMC ready.
All right, let's get into the nitty-gritty, starting with the first 5 foundational steps. It all starts with number 1, identifying your level. You got to know what game you're playing. If you handle sensitive info, what's called CUI, you're pretty much guaranteed to be aiming for level 2. Number 2, scope your environment. This is so important. Think of it like drawing a fence around only what needs protecting. A smaller fence is way easier to guard. Next, you do a gap assessment to see what you've got versus what you need, and that leads to 2 crucial documents: your system security plan, which is the map of your secure setup, and your plan of action and milestones, which is basically your to-do list for everything you need to fix. Okay, so you've laid the groundwork. Now for the second half of this roadmap. This is all about putting things into action and proving you did it. You're going to implement the controls you need, things like multi-factor authentication. Then you have to document, well, everything, and I mean everything. You have to remember the auditor's mantra: if it isn't written down, it never happened. Then you run a mock audit to pressure test your whole system, you train your team so everybody knows their part, and finally, you call in the pros, a certified third-party assessor, for the official assessment. That's the finish line.
Now, hang on a second. I really want to pause here and zoom in on step 4 from our roadmap, the System Security Plan, or SSP. I'm telling you, this document is the absolute backbone of your entire compliance effort. If you get this one document right, everything else gets so much easier. So what the heck is an SSP anyway? Well, the easiest way to think about it is as the master playbook for your secure environment. It's the one single document that tells an auditor the whole story before they even have to ask. It says, here's our system, here's who can touch it, and here's precisely how we meet every single security rule. And when you're building this thing, there are 4 pieces you absolutely have to nail. First, the system boundary. You're drawing a clear line in the sand around your sensitive data. Then, users and roles, who gets to cross that line and what can they do? Next, control implementation. This is the how-to section, detailing how you meet every rule. And finally, and this one is huge, evidence links. This is the show me part, pointing directly to the proof that you're actually doing what you say you're doing. All right, knowing the steps to take is half the battle, but knowing which landmines to avoid, that's just as important. So let's talk about the common mistakes that can completely derail your CMMC journey, so you can just sidestep them from the get-go.
Let's just ask the question that could save you a ton of time, a ton of money, and a whole lot of stress. Where do most businesses go wrong when they start preparing for their CMMC assessment? And here they are, the top 5 most common and most costly errors we see. Number 1 is just procrastination. Waiting until the last minute is an absolute recipe for disaster. Number 2, bad documentation. Again, if you can't prove it, you didn't do it. 3 is overscoping. This is trying to secure everything instead of just focusing on the sensitive CUI data. 4 is relying only on tools, thinking some piece of software is a magic bullet that will make you compliant. And number 5, skipping the mock audit. That's like taking a final exam without ever doing a single practice test. Honestly, if you can just avoid these 5 things, you are already way ahead of the game.
You know, this brings us to a really crucial point.
I know it's easy to look at all this and think, ugh, another expensive, time-sucking compliance hurdle. But that is totally the wrong way to look at this. I want you to reframe this in your mind, because this is a genuine competitive advantage.
This quote really just nails the entire thing. Your success comes down to 3 words: clarity in your plan, consistency in how you execute it, and proof in your documentation. The companies that prepare early and build their security around these 3 pillars, they're not just going to be compliant, they are going to be the preferred partners for DoD contracts. That's your edge.
So let's leave it with one final thought. CMMC isn't some barrier that's designed to keep you out. It's the new key that's required to unlock the door to winning and keeping those DoD contracts. So the real question isn't if you need to do this. It's what are you going to do to get ready? The question is, are you prepared to win